Hello, my name's Andrew Brooks. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Before we get on with the video, just like to say a big hello and thank you to all the new subscribers. We've had quite a few join us just recently, and if you're not a subscriber, all you need to do is just click down here and you will instantly become a subscriber and hear of any new videos. Anyway, enough of all that. This video I'm going to be looking at an unreleased Paul McCartney double album. To my knowledge, there's only been 2 of these, and one of them has actually now been released, so that only leaves the one I'm going to talk about today. The first one being, of course, Red Rose Speedway, was originally meant to be a double album, released as a single album, and then in 2018, I believe it was, we got this beauty, which was the original double album, and that came from some acetates, white label, test pressings, etc., that had been discovered. Hence, I think it was from Denny Sywell, actually, the drummer at the time. But anyway, that's beside the point. That eventually got released, but the one I'm talking about today, never been officially released. So we're going to go a little bit back in time, obviously, because this is we're talking about an album which has since been released in the past, and it's a Paul McCartney solo album, not with Wings. It's a solo album. And let's go back to the summer of 79. What was happening in 79? I was 13. Here's a picture. And yeah, other things that were going on was Paul McCartney, although he was still in Wings, technically, because they hadn't had that disastrous Tokyo visit. And if you haven't seen that, all you need to do is click this link here, and there's a video all about it. Summer of 79, he was in Lowergate Farm in Peasmarsh, down in East Sussex, and also up in the Spirit of Ranakan Studios up in Scotland, just noodling around, doing some recordings all of his own. Those noodlings, as I mentioned, eventually came out as this fantastic album. We all know it and love it. It's McCartney II. And it was released, well, according to my notes, on the 16th of May 1980 in the UK, incidentally 2 days before my 14th birthday. So there we go. And it came out then a few days later. I think it was like the 22nd of May 1980 in America. So yeah, so we got this beauty of an album, totally unlike anything else he'd ever done. It was the follow-up to the 1970 album, McCartney, exactly 10 years since that solo effort, and then we get this solo effort. However, it was meant to be a double album. A double album back in 1980 would have been quite an unusual thing for McCartney, considering, well, we had just had single albums apart from Wings Over America, which obviously was a triple album. But yeah, in 1980, no, I don't think we'd even considered that McCartney would be putting out a double album. I mean, we was pleased just to get the single album. Obviously by then he was still, as I say, technically in Wings. They didn't disband until 81, although this is a totally solo effort. Some help from Linda on the backing vocals, but other than that, it's a totally solo effort. And I'll be totally honest with you, I didn't even have an inclination that there was extra missing tracks and stuff from the McCartney II sessions, probably until, I don't know, it must have been the mid-90s, I think, when I picked up this little offering called the Lost McCartney album. And this is the original double album from the McCartney II sessions. Now, obviously, this is a bootleg, but I can confirm, I've spoken to someone in the know, my friend Pete Nash, who has actually got, I believe, or he did have, unless he sold them, the original white label test pressings for the double album, and I've had some conversations with him just to clarify whether or not this was a real thing or was it a myth, because I never really thought about it. I just accepted it on face value that when this bootleg came out, that it was actually going to be a double album, or were they just extra tracks that had been left laying around and someone had just compiled a double album. But no, he confirmed that there was going to be a double album. Now Pete, I don't know if people are aware of Pete, he's actually done some work for MPL, helping them with their research, etc., for the archive editions, and we'll come on to the McCartney II archive in a little while. So so he actually did confirm that there was going to be a double album, and he also confirmed that this bootleg, which you'd obviously seen, is how it should have been. The tracks are in the right order, and he said the quality is as good as his original test pressings. So what do we get with this McCartney double album? Well, we get the released album tracks, although not in the same format as they're in on the eventually released album. Plus we get some pretty good tracks and some not so good tracks, and you can really see why they have been left off the album. So let's have a look at the track listing, shall we? Side 1, track 1, it leads off with Front Parlour, and this is like 5 minutes and 6 seconds version of it. This was eventually cut down to about 3.5 minutes on the released album. So it would have been an expanded, longer version. Track 2 is another instrumental track, and this one's Frozen Jap. It was originally on the double album 5.5 minutes long. Once again, reduced down to 3.5 minutes for the released album. Next up is the first of the unreleased songs, and boy, I wish it was still unreleased. I have to say, this, I think, you know me, I'm a big Beatles fan, but however, I will say when something's rubbish, this is rubbish, and I no doubt that there are people out there who will go, how dare you, this is terrible, because it was on an MPL film about blankets, Linda's horse and its first show and all that. I'm talking about all you horse riders. I'm sorry, it's really dire, and I can see why it was left off the album, and two, boy am I happy it was left off the released album. For those of you who haven't heard All You Horse Riders, I'm sure it's out there on YouTube. Just search it up if you're really that desperate to hear it. It's as I say, electronic music with Paul shouting instructions for horse riders, to trot and gallop and stuff like that. So never mind. However, the next track is also one that never came out on the released album, and I will tell you where you can find all these things at the end of the video. But the next one is probably one of the better tracks that should have been kept on the album, or he should have kept it for, I don't know, a B-side or even a later release. And I'm talking about a track called Blue Sway. It's sort of, Paul noodling on synthesizers, making it quite atmospheric. I mean, on the back of the bootleg, I think they actually describe it as it might function well as music to wallpaper your living room by. Just sort of to let it wash over you. But it is quite a nice track, and I'm pleased that we actually finally got to hear it. So Blue Sway concludes side 1, and we then flip the record over if you're listening to it on a double album, and side 2 starts off with one of my favourite tracks, Temporary Secretary, and this on this version it's actually 3 minutes and 5 seconds long, whereas on the released one it was like 3 minutes 13 seconds. So they'd actually slowed that one down to make it just a little bit longer. You probably could tell if you actually check this version out. But Temporary Secretary, one of my favourites, and I know it's a favourite of my friend and fellow podcaster, video vlogger, whatever you want to call us, Sam Wiles up in Birmingham. Hi Sam, shout out to Sam. This is one of his favourites, and of course we got it released as a 12-inch single with that fabulous artwork by Jeff Cummins, and I believe unfortunately his exhibition up in Norwich is now finished, but up there you could see the original artwork for this 12-inch single of Temporary Secretary. Anyway, I'm digressing away from the double album. So side 2, track 1, Temporary Secretary. Next up we have another track from the official release, McCartney II. Again, it's, you know, it runs a little bit shorter than the release version on this double album, but it's only like seconds. I think it's something like 8 seconds shorter, 7 seconds shorter, something like that. So we're not missing an awful lot on this double album version of it. Yeah, on my way. Track 2, side 2. Track 3, however, on side 2 is one of those unreleased songs which is wacky. It's completely Mad Professor McCartney, and it's Mr. H Atom, and I highly recommend that you check this one out. It's great. It's sort of on the same sort of wavelength as sort of Cage. Yeah, that sort of feeling about it, Mr. H Atom. And I do recall Paul actually describing how he came to write the song after discovering that the difference between a male and a female is like one hydrogen atom, Mr. H Atom. And Linda actually takes the lead vocal on this, singing about Mr. H Atom lives on the male side of town, or something like that anyway. Next track up, track 4 on side 2, is another released version. It came out on the official release, McCartney II. However, there is a big difference. On the double album version, it's an instrumental. And of course, I'm talking about Summer's Day Song. It's 3 minutes 15 long, something like that. But as I say, on this double album, it's an instrumental version, which is quite nice and quite different. Going into track 5 now, we have another unreleased song. Certainly wasn't on the released version of McCartney II, and that's You Know I'll Get You Baby, 3 minutes 45 of McCartney noodling and studio trickery, how I like to call it. Yeah, another unreleased track. Probably can see why it remained unreleased until a few years ago, and say I'll come on to that release soon. And the last track on side 2 is the last unreleased track from all of these recordings, and it's a companion piece to Bogey Music, and I'm talking about a track called Bogey Wobble. It's sort of like, you know, McCartney raiding the effects cupboard, because he's just noodling around with his synths, and just having a bit of fun. As I say, these things probably remained unreleased for a reason. I'm just pleased I got them now. Leading off side 3, we now have a track which did come out on the original album. However, this version is considerably longer. It's well over a minute, probably nearly a minute and a half longer than the released version, and it's a different mix. And this is like a different version of Dark Room. Now, Dark Room is one of my favourites on the released album, so to actually get a longer version of it is something a little bit unusual, and I can probably see why they did sort of condense it down. Obviously, they were stuck with the time frame of a single album. They didn't have the sort of freedom of a double album to keep it that length. However, I'm kind of pleased that they did shorten it down. But as I say, on this album, it's a different mix anyway, so it's like a totally different song. Track 2, side 3, it's pretty standard. It's almost the same as the released McCartney II version, and this is one of those days. I think it's just maybe like a couple of seconds shorter. From my ears, there's not a lot I could tell the difference between the two. So probably most of you already heard this one before. Side 3, track 3. I would suggest, correct me if I'm wrong, I would suggest this is probably one of McCartney's longest ever tracks that he's actually officially released. It didn't come on the original McCartney II album. However, it was the B-side of the Temporary Secretary 12-inch single, and I'm talking about the track called Secret Friend. I really like Secret Friend. I think it's great. Maybe it could have fitted on the McCartney II album. However, as I say, being 10 minutes, over 10 minutes in length, it would have been they'd have had to boot off a couple of other probably fairly decent sort of songs. So in a way, I'm kind of glad it was relegated to a B-side, but a B-side of a 12-inch single where it can just play for 10 minutes is great. And the last track on side 3 is one again that did come out on the McCartney II album, and it's a little bit shorter on this double album than the released album, and I'm talking about Bogey Music. As I say, it's probably, I don't know, 8 seconds shorter than the released version. Other than that, can't tell much difference. Now side 4 opens with a track that was actually the first track that was recorded for the sessions, and McCartney, he literally just plugged his microphones into the back of his Studer 16-track recorder. No mixing console or desk. Him and Eddie Klein, they worked it out. Just whacked the microphone straight in the back of the 16-track recorder. And to check his machines, he recorded a song called "Check My Machine." Now this came out as the B-side of the second single from this album, Waterfalls. But this was the B-side, and Check My Machine. And it's a little bit different to the release version, because the release version you get "Morning George, Hi Terry," "Morning George, Hi Terry," and then some sound effects. This actually goes into the Barney Rubble little speech of "Sticks and stones may break my bones, names will never hurt me." So they've omitted some things, so it's a little bit of a different mix. But Check My Machine clocks in at 8 minutes 39 seconds on this double album. So it's another one of my favourites. As I say, some of the tracks I could do without, but there are others that I'm really happy that I'm getting to hear. As I say, this was a B-side anyway, so that was Check My Machine. And going straight into track 2 of the fourth side is actually Waterfalls, or as it's on this album, Waterfalls brackets I Need Love. Now there's not too much difference in the length. It's 4 minutes 29, and I think the released one was like 4 minutes 40, something like that. So it's not too much difference. I know there has been a different version since come out on bootlegs, and that's just the audio from the promotional video where there's like some sort of electronic piano noodling at the start. But on this version it's not too different to the released version. Track 3 of side 4 is practically exactly the same as it came out on the original album, and that's Nobody Knows. It's not a lot to say about that. It's as you heard it on the original album, 2 minutes 44, and no difference, but it's there. And the last track on this unreleased double album, ironically, was the first track of the released album, which is Coming Up. Now it does run a little bit different in time than the released version, and that's down to the fact that they've got the original extra bits that are added in. There's like an extra verse and some extra instrumental stuff, which was obviously removed to save time and space on the original on the released record rather. So on this version we've got an expanded version. Now the question is, why wasn't Coming Up put out as a 12-inch single then with the expanded version? It could have easily fitted on a 12-inch single. It runs at 5 minutes 25 on this album. So it's great to hear the extra stuff though, don't get me wrong, and I'm really chuffed that it came out. That's McCartney II, the double album. Now I'm sure if you hunt around on YouTube you'll be able to find all of these tracks, or even the full album maybe. If you're looking for a physical tangible copy, this is my one. I've had it, as I say, since the mid-90s, probably late 80s, something like that. There is a CD version of this out, obviously, because it's a bootleg. They'll be all over the place, but it's pretty damn good recording. The sound quality is almost as good as the released version. So that's how I got to hear of this sort of the double album from McCartney II. Now I did mention that we was going to look at where you can hear these tracks legitimately, And of course, I'm talking about this archive edition of McCartney II. It's got the original album as usual, and it's got 2 bonus CDs in it. And funnily enough, what do the bonus CDs contain? They contain Blue Sway, Check My Machine, Bogey Wobble, Secret Friend, Mr. H Atom, You Know I'll Get You Baby, All You Horse Riders, and Blue Sway, as well as full-length versions. So the bits that were cut out from Coming Up, Front Parlour, Frozen Jap, Dark Room, Check My Machine, Wonderful Christmas Time. These are all extended versions, which weren't even on that double album. So I have to say, right, this is going to be my rant now. When the archive sets came out, this is how they came out in this really nice slim format. There was like 4 discs, a nice book with some great photos in, and it was relatively cheap. It was probably less than £100 over here in the UK. And then you look at the monstrosity that we got towards the end of the archive series, because I'm going to say now, I'm staking my claim. There's not going to be any more archive releases. I know we all want London Town, we all want Back to the Egg, but I'm pretty sure we're never ever going to see an archive release of those. Hey, I'd love to see an archive release of Give My Regards to Broad Street, but I'm not going to see that either. So yeah, my only rant is, when these first started coming out, they were really nice, compact, not too expensive, and then when you look at the Flowers in the Dirt one, and all those other ones that came on later, where it was just crammed full of stuff that you didn't really want, and it cost 4 times the amount of one of these. So no, I'm pleased that the archive series has finished. I say finished in speech marks, because obviously it's not complete, but I just wish that they had continued in this format. Anyway, rant over. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Please leave comments and remarks down below. I do read everyone, and I do reply to the ones that need replying to. Up here is a link to buy me a coffee if you want to just throw a couple of quid down the internet at me. Buy me a coffee /Andrew Brooks, and it just helps keep the channel running, and gives me something to talk about as well. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.